Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Belated Thanksgiving. Strange times for everybody here, but here we go. We're off, and it feels different, but I couldn't be more thrilled. I'm excited to be back in the gym, be back with my guys and watching them compete and work. We got basically everybody here in the gym today. We can work out with two guys at a time right now on the floor. So that's what our gym looks like. And our goal is to get to Friday and, start competing 5-on-5 and get the gym moving. It's been too long. 9 months. I'm tired, ready to see some basketball. So hope you guys are too.
Perfect. Let's start with Nick Carboni.
Morning, JB.
Why does Nick get the first? Why does Nick get the first question?
I think it's alphabetical order.
I thought it was because Brian liked me best, but I guess, it's probably just the benefit of having a last name that begins with C. But
all right.
What was your reaction to, obviously I think many were surprised that Gordon Hayward was available. What was your reaction to his availability, the franchise pursuing him? And then Mitch said you spoke to him for about 30 minutes over Zoom. Was that before you all signed him or after? And what was that conversation like?
Well, first of all, I didn't expect him to opt out. I think people had speculated a little bit about it. Obviously, I didn't anticipate him opting out. This is a guy that's, he's played for a great coach there and has great ties there. They've won a tremendous amount. They've been to the Eastern Conference Finals the last 3 years. This is a guy that's about winning. And for him to leave a storied franchise like that, I just didn't expect it. When we heard he was available, there was interest on both sides. Obviously, there was multiple suitors for him. And, it was just conversation. I think, we had the Zoom call. We had some interaction, just sharing our vision, who we are, not hiding, not trying to sugarcoat anything, but laying out my vision, our culture. I think a big part was our staff. A big part was our performance team and how they take care of our players. If you look at our last 2 years, our guys have been healthy. I think that's something that played a factor into this, our style of play, and really selling our vision and what we're trying to build here. And he fits us to a T. I couldn't be more thrilled to have him in our program. He does so many things that I can get to here in a minute for our program. But it was a Zoom call before he signed, before he committed. And I'll let Gordon speak for himself, but this is not, something where we threw out a number and raised our hand and he committed to us. That's not how this thing unfolded. Gordon had to make a decision if this is a place that he believed in, that he wanted to grow with. Was this a place he saw himself finishing his career at, this city, this organization? And obviously he chose us.
We'll go to Steve Reed next.
And hope your Thanksgiving was well. How does he fit into your lineup in particular? What does that do to your starting lineup with the other guards that you have and the other players that you have? How do you see him fitting in, and what does the rest of that starting lineup look like?
We'll get to the rotation here as we go. I don't have anything penned in. I've got some dry erase markers here that I can, put some things up and change them as we go. And that's what this year is going to be about for me. The biggest thing is he brings us a winning mentality. Everywhere Gordon has been, he has won. So the first thing, he brings us a winning attitude, a winning spirit, a winning mentality. He brings us a professional at the highest level. This is a grown man that has won in our locker room now. He brings us a playmaker. This is where the NBA is at today. Big playmakers that can see over the defense, that can create for himself, create for others, a willing passer. If you guys have been listening to me over the last 2 years, I value playmaking. We needed to add playmaking to our group. And if you look at rosters that are winning in today's league, they have these type of guys that have size. Gordon is all of 6'8". He plays big. He can play at the rim. He can play in the mid-range. He can play out at three. He can play off the ball. He can play on the ball. He's a two-way player. He plays both ends of the floor. He's committed to that end of the floor. Those are all things that fit our roster and our style of play and our identity and what we're trying to do. The roster we'll figure that out as we go. I don't have any clear answers right now. I know he's in the rotation. I can tell you that. And then I got to figure it out from there, where we put the other players around him. But I like the versatility we have. Our lineup is deep. I give Mitch and our group a ton of credit. You look at where we were 2 years ago to where we're at today. We've added tremendous length, playmaking, basketball IQ. To me, those are things that win in today's league. We want to be long. We want to be versatile. If everybody can remember back to those last couple of weeks before last season came to an end, we were right there with all those teams. Milwaukee, San Antonio, Denver. We had beat Miami, beat Toronto. These are elite teams. And we stood there toe-to-toe with them with our length, our style of play, our competitive spirit. We needed to add playmaking. And this is a guy that adds elite playmaking to our organization.
Next, we'll go to Rick and then Sam.
Hey, you have talked a lot since the season was over about areas that need to be addressed. In your mind, what are the situations that were addressed between the draft and free agency, and what areas are you still concerned about?
Well, I think we addressed probably the biggest one, in my mind, is the playmaking ability. Someone that could create for others. And we got two elite playmakers that can create for themselves and create for others in Gordon and LaMelo. Two ball handlers and with size. That's to me, was one of the major pieces that we needed to add. And we addressed it in a significant way. We've talked a lot about the rebounding, the rim protection, and we've added that with the draft. I don't know, where Vern's going to fit in this mix, and Nick Richards. Obviously, we're going to get our hands on them for the first time this week. But both those players have the ability to protect the rim, play on the interior, rebound the basketball, play with a great motor on the interior. And we've talked about fortifying our interior at a higher level. And I think we addressed it with the young fellas. Bringing Biz back also adds to that. A defensive presence at the paint, a rim protector, a rebounder, and then the young fellas I think will add to that. So, and we can never, as I've said in the past, we can never add enough shooting. And I think, I expect everybody that we brought in to shoot the ball at a high level. But a lot of this, Rick, we're going to have to do with internal development, the shooting, the playmaking, the board, and the protection of the rim. Those are things that we got to address now internally as well in how we scheme. The board's just an internal, we're just going to have to dig it out, fight more, scrap more, be more physical on the board. And those are things that we can do ourselves. But to me, the biggest factor in all this is we just got two elite playmakers in our program.
Do you feel you're a team that should be contending for the playoffs this season?
We're going to be competitive every single night. I'm not going to put a ceiling on where we can go and what we can be. I expect each player to take a step forward. I expect our development program to take a step forward. I expect our players to become students of the game. I expect each player to grow in their skills and in their leadership roles. Where that takes us, Rick, I don't know. But I do know we're going to compete every single night. We're going to establish a play that reflects winning. Our winning habits are going to be reflected more and become more solidified as we go. I expect our players to become more professional. I expect them to commit and be a part of a team. And those are things that I expect, out of our group. The number, the wins, the playoffs, all that, I'll leave that for you guys to speculate and talk about. To me, I'm about development on a daily basis, getting us better. And that's my number one job. Where that takes us, we'll all figure that out over the next few months. But that's my focus right now.
Thanks.
Let's go to Sam and then Desmond Johnson.
Hey, JB, hope you're doing well. You've talked a lot about the challenge, how much you're looking forward to the challenge of this season in particular. And obviously it's going to be a very challenging season just with everything going on. How do you go about incorporating talents like LaMelo Ball, like Gordon Hayward, into the rotation, so not as to divert from where you were at the end of last season, and kind of balancing everything out, and then also factoring everything with this year, no fans, COVID testing, things like that? How do you kind of balance the challenges you're going to have on the court with off the court this year?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges this season is staying healthy. I think that's, if you can stay healthy, keep your guys on the court and away from this virus, the more success you're going to have. And we know there's going to be things that come up throughout the NBA. Every team, including ours, are going to have to deal with this. But I think that the number one thing for me, as I talk to our guys over the next few days, is just having the ability to adjust and adapt on the fly. It's like we're trying to ride a wave right now that's unpredictable and unchangeable, and we got to adjust, adapt, be flexible, and be balanced, not overreact. Every single day we come in the gym, something new could pop up, and we just got to be able to adjust and adapt on the fly. That's the biggest thing as we head into the season. To answer your first question, where does Gordon fit in our development? First of all, in his development, I think there's areas of growth for Gordon. And I think that's one thing that he and I have spent some time talking about. Where can he grow? Where can he develop as a player? Everybody that steps foot in our program, there's a development plan to get better. Whether you've been in the league 10 years, 10 days, there's a plan for you to get better and accelerate your growth. But what I reflect back on is, how does he impact the young guys? And I think that's a question a lot of people are asking and looking to, is how, he's going to take away minutes from certain guys. You had certain players playing, where does he fit in that? To me, he accelerates our development in a lot of ways. When you're around high-level basketball players, not just coaches telling you what to do, but you have examples of guys that you're playing with on a day-to-day basis, you learn the game at a higher level. Your development is accelerated. You still need the game time reps. That's important. But when you have somebody around you that makes the game easier for you, and you understand what makes them successful, that is the greatest teacher for all our guys. And I look back to my time in San Antonio. This is the example I'll give you guys is, there was a group of veterans there, and every player that would come in, people pointed to the San Antonio Spurs development program. Well, the greatest teachers for them were the guys they were playing with. They could settle into their role. They weren't asked to do too much too early. They could settle into a role, grow, develop at the right pace, at the right speed, and learn the game at extremely high level. To me, that's what Gordon does for us, that these players are going to be around him in the locker room, talking to him, watching him act as a professional, watching his habits, watching him in practice, watching him in a game. And I think Gordon just settles the gym. He settles our locker room. Those are all pieces that accelerate our development in my mind. It's my job to make sure that we're getting the right reps for those young players. That, adding Gordon might take away minutes from certain players, but behind the scenes in practice, potential in the G League, we're going to have to find ways to keep guys getting game time reps, which is extremely important. But I trust our development program. I think we've got a pretty good track record here the last 2 years on what we're doing development wise, and I expect that to continue.
Thank you.
Go to Desmond and then Chris Lee.
Hey, Coach. Desmond Johnson here, Tobacco Road Sports Radio. One of the positions of need for the Hornets going into the offseason was center. With Cody Zeller on the roster, along with the re-signing of Bismack Biyombo and drafting 2 6'11" centers in the draft in Duke's Vernon Carey and Kentucky's Nick Richards, how confident do you feel in your center position going into the 2020-2021 season? And how surprised were you to see Carey and Richards still available in the second round for you, 2 first-team conference selections in the ACC and the SEC, respectively?
Well, I'm sure you like that pick, right? You must have liked that pick.
Yeah, a little bit.
Tobacco Road.
Yeah.
I was shy. I thought it was illegal to draft Dukies here with the Hornets, but
mute your mic.
Yeah.
Hey. We're over that. We just want the best player possible and the most talented player. It doesn't matter what school they're from. But the center position, I feel extremely confident. There's a number of ways we can go. Cody fits our roster as a starter in this league. I felt comfortable with him starting with that first unit. I imagine a lot of minutes for PJ Washington at the 5, a lot, especially where the league is headed, playing a lot more small ball, sliding PJ to the 5, Miles at the 4. We're a dynamic, versatile, athletic front court with Miles and PJ together. So I'd expect a lot of those two together. And then the young kids, we'll just figure it out as we go. Again, I have not been around them much. I love their spirit so far. I love their energy. They're going to be like balls of clay to work with. I mean, they're already in the gym working. They're hungry. They're thirsty. They're just great joys to have in our program already. Which one, accelerates and who can get into the rotation? I don't know yet. I don't have that answer, but I know there's opportunity there for both of them. So I feel extremely comfortable with Cody, PJ at the 5, and then Biz. He's a professional. Biz is ready to go any single night, whether he comes in and he starts some nights, he comes in off the bench, foul trouble, matchups. Biz is a pro and he's ready to go.
Let's go to Chris Lee.
Hi, Coach. This is Chris Lee from WRAL in Raleigh. I wanted to ask you about that 15th roster spot. Mitch just said that you guys are probably looking to keep it open potentially, but with Keandre Cook and Javin DeLaurier, Xavier Sneed, and Khalil Whitney being those 4 players is there anything particular you're looking for from those players that would give them a shot at filling that last spot? Is there something that you guys are looking for to round out the roster if you are looking to fill that 15th spot?
Yeah, I think that's more of a Mitch question there. What I'll say is when there's a roster spot open and you're in a program, you do everything you can to earn that spot and you go take it. I think for all those guys, the message is there's an open spot. Separate yourself from the group and go get it. I hope somebody puts that pressure on us. Out of those 4 kids, there's talent there. There's experience there. If one of them fits into that 15th position for us, great. If not, we have flexibility. That's my mindset with it.
Thank you.
Let's go to Ashley Mahoney, then Mike Solarte.
Hey, Coach. Ashley Mahoney with the Charlotte Post. Happy December. Hope you had a great holiday. And something that you've touched on in pieces over the course of this conversation has been elements of last year. You really emphasized your 4 pillars about competing every night, player development, establishing that identity as well as winning habits. But is that something you're taking into this season as well with this group? Or are you adapting it and molding it to perhaps, say 5 pillars, cutting it down to 3, or just taking a different approach with this group?
Good question. We're sticking with it. We're just running this back again. Let's get better at it. This is 2.0 version of it. I expect our guys to compete more consistently. I think it's all those pillars, just doing it at a higher level and more consistently. And I think as we bought into that, as we grew throughout last season, we just became more consistent with it. And I think that's where we started to hit our stride there at the end. We competed at a higher level, more consistently. Our development was stronger throughout the season. Our players grew in their skill development in becoming more professional. Our identity really started to be shaped and formed throughout the season as well. How we want to play, how I want to play was reflected in those last couple of weeks. So establishing that identity. And I think now it's about taking it to another level. We're going to play faster, adding LaMelo, adding Gordon. Those are 2 players that can play in the open floor, that can make decisions in transition. We want to play with more tempo, more pace. Obviously, we want more playmaking on the floor, and those 2 guys add to that. We want to become a more defensive-minded team, and I think we saw that. We became, the last month of the season, we held the NBA to the lowest points per game the last month of the season. We held our opponents to the lowest amount of points that final month of the season. I want that to continue. That's got to be our mindset. When players step on the floor, it's a 2-way opportunity here. And I expect players to do that. And Gordon reflects that, and LaMelo reflects that. LaMelo understands that for him to be special and be great, he's got to become a 2-way player. And that's on me to push him. the last pillar we've always talked about are winning habits. And that really just comes back to consistency, being more professional, doing it on a day-to-day basis, not taking a day off, not expecting the coach to have the answer for you. You go figure it out. And this is what I'm talking about is building a culture of that where guys take ownership of this team, they lead this team, and I expect that to continue this season. So I'm thrilled. I couldn't be more excited. We're running the pillars back. This is 2.0 version, but raise your bar, raise your level, and do it more consistently.
Let's go to Mike Solarte, then Christian Winfield.
Thanks, Brian. Hey, Coach, good to see you again. As you have seen the evolution of this roster since your arrival, is this group as close to, on paper, the way that you want to coach, the way that you want to play in terms of what you put on the floor? You just mentioned, you're going to play a little bit more up tempo. You've been wanting more playmaking opportunities. Mm-hmm. Is this group getting closer to, or obviously you won't know until you play games, but is this group around where you want it to be?
We've taken a major step in this area. Our identity and how I envision this team. And this isn't just something I came up with. This is watching the league. If you look at teams that are winning, what is winning in today's league? It's teams that are versatile, almost positionless, multiple playmakers on the floor, multiple shooters on the floor, and players with two-way ability. And you do that with length, athleticism, and IQ. And those are things that we've added at an extremely high level with our group. We're more versatile, we're longer, we have more length, we have high IQ on the floor now. We have one guy that's experienced, one young buck that is going to grow in his IQ. And I'm not even mentioning the guys that have been here before. I'm just talking about what we've added. If we hadn't added Gordon and LaMelo to our program, would I still be excited? Yeah, I would, because I expect Devontae to become more of a playmaker, Terry to become a better playmaker and shooter. I expect Miles to become a better playmaker and shooter. I expect PJ to become a better playmaker. I haven't even talked about the Martin twins or Malik Monk. So my excitement is brewing here because all these guys that have been in our program now for at least a year, if not two, are going to take a step in this area. Their understanding of the game, how we want to play, their IQ, their playmaking ability, their shooting ability, all that excites me from the guys that we just had in the barn already. Now we're adding one elite guy that's done it for 10 years and that has won everywhere he's been. We're adding maybe the most special guy in the draft in this area. A point guard, a guard, whatever you want to call him, with size and feel and IQ and this appetite to be great. You put that all together, I can't wait to get to Friday, right? You all should be excited on this call. Not as excited as me, but you get what I'm talking about. Like this is where we're headed. And there's length, there's versatility, there's IQ, and there's playmaking. That thrills me.
Let's go to Christian next.
We'd love to get in the gym to see it, Coach.
Hey, Coach.
How you doing?
How's it going? Christian Winfield here with the New York Daily News. Mitch was just talking about how I believe he said the day after draft night, you guys had a dinner, invited LaMelo.
Yeah.
A, were you part of that dinner? And B, what do you remember about that? Specifically to the point where Mitch said at around 9:30, LaMelo starts asking about finding a gym and going to get some shots up. For you as a head coach, and these are two separate questions. One, what do you remember from the dinner and just that interaction with LaMelo there, getting to know him in person? And B, when you've got a guy in LaMelo who loves basketball as much as we believe he does, right? He's out there, he wants to get better, he wants to go put the work in. How much easier, or what does that do for your job in terms of guiding him to where he wants to get to in his career? When he already wants to go there and put the work in, how much easier does that make your job in terms of guiding him to that next level?
Whew. That's at least half the battle, if not more. If a player is willing to be coached and wants to be great and has the work ethic and the drive to do it, the sky's the limit for him. And this kid has that ability. And I want all our guys. I don't want it just to be LaMelo. I want all our guys to have this drive. We want a culture of guys that reflect this. And LaMelo fits that to a T. This is a guy that wants to be great. He doesn't just talk about it. He lives it. He's got an infectious spirit. You think as you guys get to know him, this is a young man that is infectious. His spirit, his energy, his desire to be great, his desire to make the most of and get the most out of the players around him. I think that excites me. So for me, it's a joy to have someone in the program that we've added. I'm not going to have to wear this guy out to get in the gym. He's just in the gym. He wants to be in the gym. And I'll take you to that night. I mean, this is where it started is, we're having a dinner. I'm not sure why they invited me. I guess they should invite the head coach, right? And it was a good meal, by the way, if anybody's wondering. It was a good meal. I did have a steak, Mike, if that's okay. All right, a little steak. And, we're getting to know each other, and, it's about conversation. It's about relationship. We are a culture that is about dinners. I think if you were to sum up our culture, it's like sitting at a dinner table. We're about relationships. We're about connection. And we're having a meal together, and, we're having some good food, and the kid decides he wants to get in the gym, and says, can you find us a gym? And obviously we figured that out, and we got him in the gym, and he worked for a couple hours. He didn't have to do that. He could have went back to his room and celebrated and looked at all his feeds and all followers and all that good stuff that, I guess these kids do nowadays, but he wanted to be in the gym, right? He wanted to be in the gym. And to me, if he continues with that mindset, that spirit, the sky is the limit for him. And not just him, but all our players.
Let's wrap up with Danny Thompson.
Coach Danny Thompson, the three-point conversion. I hope your holidays were well. And I know there's plenty of excitement going on as training camp starts Friday. My question for you is, when you look at this roster about 48 hours ago compared to now, last year there was question about ball handling with size. Now you have LaMelo, and now you have Gordon Hayward, and you've been thinking about ways to change the offense. How excited do you feel about the combinations and possibilities that you can run with having bigger playmakers on the floor with good shooters such as Terry and Devontae surrounding them?
Well, I think hopefully I've shared my excitement already. I mean, that's to me, it doesn't change our offense. We're going to continue to drive and kick the ball, share the ball, space the same way. Now we just have the ability to make better decisions, and players that have more size and more ability that way make it easier for everybody else. And that's, to me, as I said already, that's where the league is at today. The elite teams, just, write them up on your board this afternoon. They all have these elite playmakers with size. And now we have multiple of those guys. And let's not forget, we were 4th in assist percentage last year and 2nd in passes. That's not going to change. We're just doing it now with some bigger bodies. The ball is going to get delivered at a higher rate, in a better pocket. And I expect our finishing to go up. If you look at our shot selection last year, I'm happy about it because we got to the rim and we got to threes. And I think we were 5th or 6th in the NBA in that shot selection. When you add more size, you do those two levels better. In general, when you add size, you can finish better, and you can find three-point shooters more open on a more consistent basis. So to me, that's what Gordon and LaMelo will do for us. But I said, I'm not just going to leave it to them to become our playmakers. It's everybody participating in this. So I expect everybody to raise their level in this area.